that kind of led to everything, as you say, it's like an aggressive shift that we need to do now. And I think this idea of, let's set a target for 2030, 2050. You know, if this is a climate emergency, then treat it like an emergency and change it around. So you have to be aggressive. You have to really just hold that on and go for it. You can't dance around it and give yourself a pat on the back for certification. There's much more to this.
Yeah, we talked about certification at length, and we've already had time to go into too much.
Yeah.
But obviously, it's a big, it's an incentive for productions to get Albert certified.
I think Albert started the conversation.
Yeah.
It put the language into the landscape around sustainability. But I think now that we know, say we have research, but now we can actually make a difference. From an NSU point of view, we're future-proofing the industry here because we are getting asked those questions by corporate giants, Netflix, Amazon. If they want to come and call me, they're asking, this is here, so they're asking, what do you guys do in the ground? Because there is an alignment between your environmental impact and your corporate value. Even you're being brought in the CSRD, the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, which means that you have to take sustainability impact as important as your financial impact. So the future is going to look like you will need to report sustainability as much as you do the financial record. So for us, we're future-proofing, and also we're government funded, so we have a responsibility to get value for money. And for me, the best way to get value for money is to ensure we spend it wisely. And you'll hear from these guys, but sustainability is about efficiency. Don't talk about carbon. Don't talk about just climate. It's a more efficient approach to managing your sets.
Yeah. Well, the carbon concept is on us by the oil industry that we all blame ourselves. We do need to take responsibility, obviously, as individuals, but it's a definitely community effort. Adam, you go out and advise productions. So what stops teams from being sustainable in your experience?
I suppose it's mindset to a degree, because there's a lot of muscle memory.
Yeah.
The people on a film set, they've been doing something for 20 years, and then you're saying to them, actually, now we're going to do it like this. So it takes a little bit to kind of persuade them into your way of thinking. Infrastructure could be difficult. We have on a job, LA, calling us saying, get EVs everywhere, and I'm saying, but there's not the infrastructure to charge them in the hotels where our cast stay, the apartments where they stay. And then there's a financial constraint as well, because this technology is new, but it's also expensive. But whenever you put it on paper, and this was the case I've done quite a lot actually, I'll show them on paper, okay, you're spending this amount on diesel or HVO, but if you bring in battery tech to work in conjunction with your generator, you can save this much, and then the carbon saving is an add-on for them. So whenever you put the facts and figures down in front of them, you can't argue with it, and money certainly talks in production.
Do you find, that there are people who gain enthusiasm, or do they lose energy? Like, what's more likely to happen in terms of you're with production for a few months, maybe, or you pop in and out? I imagine that's how it works for you.
Yeah.
You do some installments.
Yeah.
What seems to grab people's imagination and give them the energy to keep going?
So we do try and incentivize it a little bit, or create this kind of competitiveness between departments.
Yeah.
So we'll do silly things like the best person in the department will win tickets to the cinema, and then they all become competitive. I want these tickets. Now it's 40 quid worth of tickets, but they then are walking around trying to prove how sustainable they are. But sometimes on those long jobs, like 22 weeks, it can start to grind to a halt a little bit. And then if there's any way to stop somewhere, a hiatus, or to go away somewhere, you have to pick up momentum back up again.
Yeah.
But some departments are great, some aren't great. Some people in the departments are fantastic, some people aren't. It's just that nobody can be good at everything.
I mean, I worked on my own company, and MTV.
I saw it in MTC.
I was our producer, wonderful particularly for sustainability. And we tried to, go full hog on a half decent budget for a short, and to try to be sustainable. But what we noticed was preparing was the most important almost for us at that level, in order to maintain sustainability and create, a program or a system in which people work, so that isn't you're not adding it in later.
Well, sorry, it has to come from day one.
It has to, yeah. Or even day 0,
Yeah.
-5, so that, you know, people prior to production are ready to roll.
But just on that, I go back to even writing, that even the writers should be considering this, because I've seen there's kind of a habit now of writers, not their own fault, but of rewriting scripts at a certain point, and that has a massive impact on props, materials, on the whole process.
Yeah, I think that's probably something I asked Rachel about. Rachel, like what stage do the sustainability questions start with, say, Two Cities? Even with the writing that you're reading all the time anymore?
I think a long time ago it would never ever have come into anyone's mindset. Certainly not in a development conversation where you're developing a script and you're like, let's talk about sustainability. You know, and like representation of sustainability in the script, it just would not be a question.
Yeah.
But definitely we would find, I mean, we made a short earlier this year and we went through the whole Albert certification process just to keep us right. And Albert's one of those things that when you're in production, when you don't have sustainability teams there, it just falls in production. And we have Leah here today, who's doing a lot of the Albert for us on Blue Lights, and did it brilliantly. But I think sometimes it can just be that's another thing for production today, and that's a lot. Because when you're in production, you're not in all the other departments, so it's amazing to have a sustainability team or department, even if they're part-time on the production, that they come in and they're across everything. I think it's up to, you know, the company making any TV show to try and create, you know, think about things sustainably. So, and it's getting in at the start, so with say your costume department.
Yes.
But you know, yes, we do want to, you know, buy clothes from charity shops, or you know, go into a warehouse that you know, we've kept from previous jobs. And Northern Ireland is a small place, so it's about best practice and conscious practice.
Do you feel that that's starting to?
We're having conversations from the, you know, with commissioners right to the, you know, right to the very end of delivery, where you know you kind of have to prove, and increasingly they want to see evidence of it. They want us to photograph and record everything. There's reporting done, you know, there's accountability there. And I mean, we've all worked on those productions and you have nightmares about it. It's the transient nature of the industry. That
It's so fast.
you go in, you've got you're under a lot of pressure. You have to deliver, you have to get done, and then you have to leave. And it's just throw everything in the bin, nobody will see, nobody will know. And it just gets rid of it. And actually, we just can't do that anymore. It's just not acceptable. So,
Well, there was something really exciting happened on season 3. That everything was like, what happened? I thought this battery thing. Aaron, you could probably tell us a bit about that as the new expert in Northern Ireland. What is it?
I wouldn't say experts, it's a strong word. But yeah, so we had an idea. I have a bit of a past with the battery tech on Game of Thrones, Land of Seven Kingdoms. We used them statically. And yeah, we came with this idea of how we make them mobile. Now these batteries are not designed to be mobile. Here, so here you have just your standard Jenny, which is probably going on HBO, and to the left is the battery. And they're linked, and the way they work is when the battery runs, it charges the battery, or when the Jenny's running, sorry, charge the battery. It normally takes about 4 to 5 hours for this size of battery. And then depending on what power you're drawing, your battery will run for X amount of time. It was my job to see what our business is drawing and to plan when the battery will come into action, and that made such a difference, because the way you have to look at it is, if your business power, this is a 45 kVA, so you know what's probably going here, but say your business power 45 kilowatts, then that will last an hour. So my plan was to put a schedule on this where that's not going to come on when your business is at high, so it'll come on when your business is low and you get longer hours. You know, you're not financially not going to get your benefit if that's going on for an hour a day. So it's my job to plan that. And our business.
Show the next slide, sorry, so it's a bit page.
So this is an example of our fish, cascaders, costume, hair, makeup, really freaking. And your production office, over here. So,
Nothing's free.
yeah, so basically I would have to kind of go to each department and say, right, you don't need 4 heaters on, you're wearing your pajamas. Can you put some clothes on? You know, seriously.
You're like mom.
No, I'm like
Your
that,
mom
I'm like
is
that.
like, or the dad.
But I've got a direct source to NIE down. So, yeah, so I have to explain to them, they're basically going, no, you can't power, do you really need this much power? Your door's wide open, you need 4 heaters. And I do need the door open, but yeah, no, that's another problem. So, yeah, that was basically my role, was going through each department, and I was taking it away from, you know, the facilities guys, Jamie's guys, who were unbelievable in this job. I can't take away how much effort they put into getting this working, what they do work. But I needed to take away that responsibility of answering questions, and that's what I did. I kind of managing who's drawing the most power and when they're drawing it, and how I can factor that in when we can use battery power.
Amazing. And Jamie, where do you see that going for you? You know, the next productions that you work on, what are you going to build on? You know, what have you learned actually, like, and created? Because I know that you've invested quite a bit in some of the
equipment.
yeah. So
Well, look, in the last 3 or 4 years, Moodco itself has been building a lot of new equipment with sustainability in mind. Even before the hush pod one came about, so we're putting in insulation in the trucks, split lighting, LED lighting, various equipment, bits and pieces. Solar panels. That was going to come to solar panels. One of the biggest things is probably our tech trucks now are kitted out with solar panels with on-power batteries. And the result that's given is absolutely incredible. I mean, a typical tech truck, let's say a grips truck, if it only run on a 6-7k generator, so obviously that's getting powered for 12-13 hours, probably at a cost of £20 a day. Our solar panels and our batteries are maybe running 3-4 days on the same power. So that alone, the production saving money, the environment, but more importantly, you're walking down on a set and it's silent. There's absolutely no sound. You hear all the birds, everything talking. It's incredible. You know, the first time I was worried, is this going to work? Is it not going to work? You know, what happens if it fails? Maybe it goes really bad. You know, and it was all sort of put together very quickly for blue lights. And again, on the strength of blue lights, now can learn certain trucks use more power. So we've invested in the bigger batteries. I-year camera trucks that demand a lot more power. So we've invested heavily into there. And the batteries again, now we've applied the bigger batteries, have lasted 2 and 3 days, not maybe 12 hours and 15 hours.
yeah. And how did your team respond when you?
It was a learning curve.
Yeah.
It really was. But
They find it
thanks
difficult.
to Aaron and
Yeah.
everyone chipping on board, all of us, I felt, just was learning as we go along. You know, there's no better experience. You know, what you come up against, you've got to just fix.
And then that feeling that you're doing something that's actually really good.
Good, and save money. Production save money. You know, first and foremost, you're going, oh, it's an extra few quid, but in the long run, you're actually saving.
Yeah.
You know.
I think as well, you know, Mitchell touched on there that this is a very transient landscape. You know, we had tried this battery as a static unit on Universal Hydrogen Dragon, and the blue lights was the first time we put it on wheels. So it was, you know, an investment from Jamie, this gamble. But these type of shows are you know, there are day-to-day. These are the shows that keep going when the likes of, you know, Game of Thrones aren't here. The blue lights, you know, we have Flying Duty, all of them. They're very transient. They move day to day. So that was the challenge. How do we get this technology moving across Belfast on a day-to-day basis? So that's why the role of the unit manager, which was supported by BBC for Aaron, having there to kind of be a cushion for Jamie and his team, because their day-to-day is busy as well. They're pulling cables, moving trucks, trying to get ahead of time. It's a long day, and over time the shit can wear on them. So this was really important because this showed that actually this can operate on these type of shows. We can move across Belfast at a moment's notice and we can keep learning sets. At this point on, the reason why there's free lines is it's free face fire. So Arm's role is essentially making sure those free lines don't overload. So everything you add onto that, so say there could be a bigger scene with more casting, that's another trailer. Another trailer with more power. So it's just kind of, it is more complicated and looks and more of a challenge. If people assume that your battery, that you just pull up with, almost like an iPhone, and you switch on your battery and there it goes. And it's not that simple. It works, but it takes a bit of TLC.
But also, you have to really drill down on it. So it's how many hair dryers are being used, how many extras you've got every day, when catering are coming in, when they're turning, how they're turning everything up.
Oh. Yeah. How do I get back to the room? That. Oh. Oh, is it like a code room? Oh, right, fair enough. Yeah. I'll go this way. Thank you. Oh, yeah.
Transport and getting actors to travel together for short, if not a full week, because we know that usually it's a limited budget. We just have this conversation and no one really. But then, for example, my fiance a few years ago when we first met, I was filming in Dublin and I stayed with him, and this big black mark drove up to collect me, take me with him, and so fancy, and you do enjoy it. But he just said to me, text me, he said, did I just see you get into a big black mark outside the house? I was like, yes, you did. And he's like, are you black mark outside the house? I was like, yes, you did. And he's like, are you by yourself in that car? I was like, yeah. Are they collecting anybody else? I was like, no, it's just me. And I knew how extravagant that was, but it was just him going, what kind of industry are you in? Like, I'm not number one on the call sheet. I'm not, I'm certainly nowhere near the number one on that production. I was in all the apps, but it didn't, that doesn't matter, because ultimately one of the questions, I'm sure there are many, was how many actors can you get in the car without anyone wanting their own space? And there are other measures you can take, but that's the big one, I think.
I think, actors have such a powerful position on production, obviously on their profile, but they do have a very powerful position. And I think when you do educate a lot of them and have this conversation, they do buy into it, but there are some that just their egos get way past the reality of day-to-day living. And especially in those bigger Hollywood productions, this is my kind of annoying thing about Team Writer, which is a movie to try and get actors to state their environmental credentials, which is great. But I've been on productions where it's now not just a trader, I'm only a trader, I own a gym, I want my own personal caterer, and then I want to compromise with my family, I want to the dog, and you're building up many cities with these cast members, I'm not naming names, but that's nothing, so and it's very hard for us then to kind of go, well, we just built this city for cast, but still remember, you have the disposal traffic up, get on them.
Yeah.
You have, it's how do you speak to crew and say, well, I'm with 14-hour days, but, number one, on the cast, this is going off the weekend in London. So they do have a very powerful position, and I think it's having those conversations and kind of getting across going, maybe highlight that when you're covering the set, you don't need to have your gear on all day. You're happy to share a vehicle.
You don't need your own makeup trailer.
You don't need your own trailer, which, and having those conversations is important, and those little changes, because we've tried on shows in Ireland as well, having shared transport, but over time, some some cast don't want to share transport, so they make it single thing, a single
It's
base.
also up to companies,
Yep.
you know, like what they tolerate and what they don't tolerate. Because in those conversations, when you are, you know, discussing who you are wanting to cast, increasingly people are not wanting to cast
Yeah.
high octane demands, or, you know, it's just that the industry now is so rich that, you know, we've lot, when we're casting, there are so many options and lots of people who play or interpret a role. So at the end of the day,
Yeah.
nobody wants to work with anyone difficult or demanding, or, you know, and there was an amazing panel on earlier that, about anti-bullying, and that's now another layer, another thread.
It's sort of, it's going parallel, I imagine.
Well, yes, because it's now sustainability is a big part of the conversation. Anti-bullying and harassment is a big part of the conversation.
And both demand empathy, both demand patience, and both
And
demand
constant
self-awareness.
monitoring, so
Yeah.
you're constantly monitoring a very an evolving situation, and reflection is required. So with every production, you're kind of looking back and going, okay, what was successful there, what wasn't so successful there, how can we do better? And that's what companies need to do, and they need to look at the people that they're working with and the practices in place, and always try to do better.
Yeah.
I think there's an accountability there.
And sorry, just on that, it goes back as well to the actual titles of the roles. So Arm's obviously a sustainability manager, and either a sustainability advisor, in some cases, sustainability manager. The manager title is really important because what I've seen in the past is there's an obsession, both particularly in the States, a green PA or a officer, just different terminology. And they're sending a lot of academics, young academics, coming out of university, coming on the set, and sets are very intimidating places. And they're sending them to the unit base to speak to a cast member. And it depends on the person, but that's a very big environment when you send a junior member. And so Adam and I fought a lot, with those companies in the States, with organizations like BFI and Back to about ensuring the terminology around titles is important, because you can't be sending junior levels into these spaces to have those conversations. You can't go to a gaffer who's 30 years experience in the industry and tell them, by the way, you change your fuel. It's a very, very risky environment. So I think that's another conversation as well, is just understand who you're talking to, understand your role.
Yeah.
Casting career a bit like horses, you kind of have to approach them with caution.
They're also somewhere else in their head, so
They're hyper-focused
yeah.
on what they're doing. That's the
Yeah.
thing. Everybody's hyper-focused on their job, and nobody wants to take the risk and get caught with the trousers down.
yeah.
You don't want the person says, oh, yeah, let's use this new piece of tech, and it completely fails, and the show stops for the day.
Yeah. And Blue Lights itself, and I know we always go out this and you do interviews on TV and you hear all the cast talk about the experience making the show, but it is actually a lovely set.
Yeah.
Like, it's a really, really genuinely upbeat place where everyone loves the specific job they're doing, it seems, and everyone is delighted to be hanging out there making brilliant script. And that is true, Rich, but you pop in and out of set all the time. It's just a really good atmosphere. But so there are, I imagine, productions where the atmosphere may not be at peak positivity, and so those things must be challenging.
They all pay that hit.
Yeah.
You're going into them, they're stressed, they have got higher demands, less money, less time, and you're coming in saying, by the way, you can't have meat. And they go, you what now?
Yeah.
So and these are the conversations I'm having with the studio companies. They're saying, no meat, we're not letting any meat. Next is, a spark will flip a table on a Monday morning if they can't have a bag of butter. So let's maybe ease them in and say no beef, no lamb. But yeah, some productions are much more difficult than others. Blue Lights was great. You went into the production office, you spoke to the guys. There was very little resistance from anybody. There were some people, and it wasn't even resistance, it's more just understanding.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. They just didn't understand what we were asking them to do.
You want to know what you're actually doing with.
And that's it.
It's time for some people.
They don't want to be caught out whenever we say let's do this, and then the makeup artist would come out chasing our other person. She didn't chase him. She just and happened to say, yeah. Some things work.
Everybody.
Especially anything like that, there's going to be an element of teething problems, and once people get on board, and I think that's a huge thing, the exercise of that, then suddenly it's like, oh, I find.
And did you find that when the feedback to production was positive, as in, is there an excitement I'm not going to put these words on you, but is there excitement and enthusiasm about moving forward with this?
Yes.
I genuinely do think people, you know, what people want is a job. People want the industry here to work and
Yes.
to continue to thrive. So I know that producers and line producers here are listening. They're listening. They want to know. They want to know how, and they want to work with better saving money. Wow, amazing. Absolutely. I don't think people are, you know, burying their head in the sand and saying, no, I don't want to hear. I think they're ready to go, and there's an energy for it.
The way I sometimes explain it, we were on a job and there's a bit of resistance there. And I says, guys, here is it, plain and simple. If you don't do this, these production companies will find someone else that will do it. And I said, that could be in another country, in another region. I says, so let's start doing this and continue.
But I do feel like when you know, you can't unknow. So if you understand what the climate emergency is, you get a bit more information on it, it's very hard to not know that anymore. And therefore, if you learn more about what your actions, or I hate to put on individuals actually, it makes me very uncomfortable, but on communities or groups, productions in this case, and work together to create something really positive. Because ultimately, you're going to bed every night going, I just did something really good today.
So like one of the things was Olio, the food app that we used to redistribute all the surplus food. You know, that had a huge impact on families who were, you know, struggling. We were able to redistribute the food to them and make sure that they had a meal that night. Some people don't like it because there is an issue. Sometimes they think that other people are getting it when they shouldn't get it, but we're saying it's going to somebody, and that's the point. It's not going into a bin.
Yeah.
And
It's a big proponent, isn't it, to the issue. I think it's horrible. But food waste.
Food waste, consumerism as a whole, you know, everybody wants to buy things for less money. They buy it, you can't fix it, you throw it away, and it just creates this vicious circle.
Yeah, yeah. And we have 10 minutes left. I always would feel Gavin's going to come up to me afterwards and go, cover this, and cover that. With your aggressive shift towards sustainability, fear for my life.
One more slide is just the full questions
Well, let's see.
of the data. So I don't know how to go on this.
This is great. Before we go to one or two questions, it would be good to
Yeah, because this is actually, you know, I know we talked about the impact, but this is actually the numbers. I know that last year last thing.
1,105 reduced generator run hour.
Yeah, so that's using the battery tech that so diligently looked after. We were able to reduce that, and because of that, we were able to recoup over £10,000 after the cost of the unit and fuel. And then 22,000 litres of HVO used. You know, there was areas around the world who were doing press releases in national newspapers for using 5,000 litres of this, and we're using 22,000.
Wow.
I'd also say we're the first region in the world to make it mandated in our policies. You know, the climate system is tested, but we did the first ever do that.
You told me to ease in, and I just went and told this big production, I says, you have to use everything. And they were like, all right, fair enough. So we were using 30,000 litres a week on that one. So that's a huge thing, because every litre of HVO fuel generates, sorry, the body will be stat, 0.03 kilograms of CO2 versus diesel, which is 2.7 kilograms of CO2. So you think of that, 22,000 litres, and those figures.
It's amazing. I love the stat.
I love stats too. I love a spreadsheet too.
Stick around.
Everything's a spreadsheet. And there 503 meals donated to over 100 local families.
I will say, since we brought that partnership on with Olio, and since then we have over 7,000 meals being donated to local charities and groups in around Belfast and Fulham. So, but that's the blue light stat, but that set up the meeting was fantastic. And then just on that, so that's the 62,000 tonnes, and there's one more slide there, one more is the slide for the question. So,
It's a great slide.
thanks. I'm putting a long time
We
here.
didn't get these
It
slides.
looks like to my report.
But it's just, I mean, I said about tons, and no one really gets the ton questions. You know, what is a ton? So just, you know, to reference 62 tons saving blue lights, and that's, you know, 50 return flights to Belfast and London. You know, that speaks volumes to producers and production, because they're constantly flying back, you Belfast or London. So to be able to kind of save that, it's a big plus of film here, and it just it simplifies the argument.
Qualifies it.
Yeah.
It's an easy visual, digestible. You can go, oh, okay, that's what it works out.
Makes complete sense to say it like that, yeah. So before we go to the floor, we have 37 minutes and 38 seconds, which means that despite everyone's urge to want to say something, if you have any questions specifically, that would be really helpful. So maybe show of hands if anyone would like to ask a specific question to the panel. I'm doing
Oh.
time for 7
Yep.
minutes.
Oh yeah, over here.
Yeah, could we just bring up the first slide here?
Oh, over side.
Yeah,
Yeah.
base, yeah.
Yeah. I can see one fundamental flaw in that,
Yeah, go ahead.
and that's that all your units are separate. Why not join them with a bellows tunnel, which means you're not losing heat out of each unit, which means it can be heated through the 3 units.
David, you bring your staff with you today?
Not a bit. They're on call.
Say that again.
Yeah, this diagram here, that doesn't actually refer to what was on the base, as in what layout it was.
Yeah.
You know, that's just a breakdown of
That's a
what
rough
was
general
carried
unit base.
on the base.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes you don't have the luxury, you have to park it in a certain way. I mean, even to save production money, but people don't understand. I mean, you put it in a certain way, and there's certain trucks that can leave first, say, on the next day. So the guys on the floor are moving those trucks and saving production money, so they're not bringing in swing drivers. You know, there's a method behind the madness. You know.
These are all transportable. These are all trucks on wheels, and as Jamie said, like, you could be parked on a small car park anywhere in Belfast. So that's a luxury. It's space like that to park with that.
Yeah, it's squashed into the corner of like a schoolyard somewhere in the summertime.
Yeah.
You know, it's just everyone's
And
got.
could be, just you could say, well, tomorrow we have less gas, so take away 2 trailers, condense it, save costs. So that's a very kind demonstration of what innovation is.
I noticed what you were calling blue lights there, and for parking for the gate. I noticed all your vehicles were separate, and I've always kind of wondered why not put them together and so you join them. It seems gallows together was there.
Oh yeah.
That way you're still using gas and you're not losing anything.
Slowly growing.
Yeah. And then on top of that, each 3-way trailer, I mean, they're all thermostatically controlled. So our newer trailers that we've invested in recently, last year actually, they can actually sense the doors open. So it does, and then starts saving electric. So yeah.
Those ideas that we're open to new ideas, and that is why what we've managed to do is power management is seeing where we can make it more efficient. And as I said, we go back to Jamie and say, well, this trailer has 2 outputs, what can we make it into 1, and that gives us more outputs on the battery. So yeah, like there is probably more things that we could probably incorporate, but right now this is just a learning curve of how inefficient our business are set up. Yeah, there probably is improvements that will be made in the future.
Great. Any more questions?
Oh yes, yeah. Oh, thank you. Not so much a question, but I'm actually a YouTuber, and I'm CeltixBrother on YouTube and Instagram, and I've actually seen you guys in a video. I think one day you were behind Primark doing season 3 production.
Dodgy, but
Yeah, dodgy setting, mate. Yeah. But I just wanted to let you know that I have a clip of the production with his name's not Tommy. What's his name? His real name? Nathan. Yes. I have a video of him waving at me. So yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there. Yeah, I mean, yeah. No.
I wasn't sure where I was going there. I was getting a sweat on.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So I suppose another question as well. Whenever you are about how long do you have to like film in different parts of Belfast? Like, is there a time scale?
just depends on the script and what's required. It depends whether they're shooting a driving scene or in a location. It's all depends on the story.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. I think we
Yeah.
have time
Thank
for
you. Thank you.
a very quick question
Oh.
before we sign off.
Yeah.
2 minutes, 48 seconds.
Okay, much wrong. I was just curious, kind of with the developments of AI over the last few years, if you have any thoughts on how AI will impact on sustainability?
Oh, yeah.
A writer, an actor, voice artist, as an environmentalist, it's, I don't see how.
I think it's with hesitation and suspicion. It's going to have a place. I think AI is going to have a place in all industries probably moving forward, but at this point we're still very analog.
Love to see you do what I do, isn't it?
You know, yeah, it's important.
It's out of the bag for me. I think it's there now, and I think it's one of our lives, as you said. So I think we're still trying to figure out.
How do you use it?
Yeah, I think my concern is just the amount of water and energy it requires. Is very concerning.
That's certainly, that's the number one concern of mine, yeah, for sure.
There's a funny stat really quickly that again Stafford, that the owners of Chat GDP said that in the UK and Ireland, people use these AI tools that are so polite that whenever it gives them an answer, they say thank you. And that is causing the footprint to go hugely through the roof because everyone's just being so polite to this AI.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah,
I've seen these AI ads as well that make everything look so cozy and beautiful, and they're just running around and they're learning how to make their potential partner a meal. Just ask ChatGPT. I was like, just ask your sister. Like ask your
It's the
dad.
sign of the
Yeah.
which is just not.
It's not there. It's too much for me personally. There's just too much water involved for it to be justifiable at the moment. Certainly, I just don't understand how we can just continue at that rate and keep going. It's the future. Like, yeah, this goes. What is the future? That's another part. That's another.
next year we'll be back. What's the future?
Sorry.
We'll be back next year for what's the future.
Yeah. What is the future? And we have 37 seconds left. So thank you everyone for your ears and your eyes, and
Thank you.
hopefully your enthusiasm is in the room for sustainability. You'll be demanding sustainability measures everywhere you go, which is no bad thing. Aggressive shift is what's needed. So thank you so much. Thank you to our panelists. And